You know, life has this strange way of connecting us long before we realize it. And sometimes you meet someone without ever standing in front of them. You feel them in the quiet moments, in the questions you ask yourself, in the way your heart moves even when nothing around you does. So tonight, I want to talk about something simple, but also kind of profound. A feeling that doesn't need a touch, or a name, or even a moment in the same room, because I never met you, but I know you, and maybe that's the beautiful part. That love doesn't always start with a hello. Sometimes it starts with the truth your soul just recognizes. There's something almost unreal about standing here trying to find the right words for something that doesn't quite fit into the world of ordinary explanations. Because when I say, I never met you, but I know you, I'm not talking about a fantasy or a dream. I'm talking about that strange, soft, deeply human truth that sometimes the heart recognizes someone long before the eyes ever do. It sounds unusual, maybe even impossible, but the more you sit with it, the more it feels like one of those quiet truths. Life tries to whisper to us when everything else goes silent. And the thing about knowing someone without meeting them is that it isn't built on appearances or first impressions or the small talk that usually fills the space between strangers. It's built on something different, something that moves beneath the surface, something that feels like a memory you never lived, but somehow still remember. Maybe it begins with a thought you didn't expect, that tiny spark that flickers for no apparent reason, like when your mind drifts to a person who isn't part of your days and never has been, yet somehow they live in the corners of your heart, as if there's already a reserved place waiting for them. Maybe it's that moment when you feel warmth from a presence you can't physically point to. Maybe it's the way your soul seems to pause for someone who hasn't entered your life yet. It's strange, but love doesn't always need footsteps to start walking. Sometimes it begins in silence. Sometimes it begins before the meeting, before the introduction, before the world even gives you a chance to speak their name. There's this kind of knowing that doesn't depend on sight. You don't need to know the color of their eyes to feel the sincerity in their imagined gaze. You don't need to know the sound of their laugh to understand that it would soften something inside you. You don't need to feel their hand in yours to trust that it would steady parts of you that have been trembling for years. There's a type of knowing that comes from the heart, and the heart doesn't really care whether your paths have crossed yet. It only cares about truth. And sometimes truth arrives early. People may say you're imagining it. They may tell you that you can't possibly know someone without having them right in front of you. But life doesn't always follow logic. Love especially refuses to. Love has always been something that exists beyond rules, beyond proof, beyond explanation. If love had to wait for permission, it would barely exist at all. So when I say I never met you, but I know you, I'm talking about that pull, that recognition, that quiet gravity between souls that haven't touched yet, but already seem to be moving toward each other. Maybe I know you in the way I understand the softness hidden inside, someone who tries to be strong for everyone else. Maybe I know your silence more than your words. Maybe I know the shape of your loneliness, even if I've never seen the way you look when you think no one is watching. Maybe I know the kind of tired your heart carries, the kind that comes from giving too much and receiving too little. Or maybe I simply know the part of you that still hopes, even after the world has given you 100 reasons not to. There's a kind of intimacy in recognizing pieces of someone you haven't met, like standing in a place you've never been but feeling like you've returned home. We meet people in more ways than one. We meet them through the stories they've lived, the stories they haven't told, the ones they're still trying to understand. We meet them in the quiet universe of their emotions. Sometimes we meet someone in the possibility of them. And possibilities can be as real as any reality because possibilities are made of hope, and hope is one of the most powerful forms of truth we have. When I say I know you, I mean I know the feeling of you, the idea of you, the presence of you that somehow existed long before our paths were ever supposed to cross. There are moments when I sit in silence and I feel this strange, gentle knowing, as if your spirit brushes against my own. It's not dramatic or low, UD. It doesn't demand anything, it just exists. It's this quiet assurance that love doesn't always need to begin with a meeting. Sometimes it begins with understanding, sometimes it begins with a heartbeat that reacts to something it can't name. Sometimes it starts with a longing that appears before the reason for the longing does. The heart has its own timeline, and it rarely waits for the physical world to catch up. I imagine the kind of person you might be, not in a way that tries to create you, but in a way that recognizes something familiar about your existence. Maybe you're the kind of person who loves deeply but quietly, the kind who doesn't need to announce their feelings to make them real. Maybe you carry a tenderness you don't show often because life has taught you to be careful with where you place your softness. Maybe you're strong in ways people don't always notice, the kind of strength that comes from surviving more than you talk about. And maybe you're searching for someone who doesn't just listen to your words, but understands the emotions between them. You don't have to meet someone to recognize the way their presence might settle the chaos inside you. You don't have to hear their voice to know it could calm the storms you've been trying to quiet for years. Love has always been more about feeling than form, more about connection than contact, more about truth than timing. When I say I know you, I don't mean I know all your details. I mean I know the depth of what you carry, the weight of what you've lived, the hope of what you still believe in. I know you the way one soul knows another long before the rest of life catches up. Sometimes I think about how the universe nudges us toward people long before we understand why, how certain hearts seem to be written into our story even when their names haven't appeared yet. And that's the strange beauty of it all. The connection begins before the meeting. The recognition happens before the introduction. The love exists before the moment that gives it shape. It's like seeing light under a door before you ever open it. You don't have to walk inside to know the room is warm. There's something incredibly tender about feeling close to someone you've never touched. It's not obsession. It's not fantasy. It's more like alignment. Like the world inside you recognizes a rhythm that belongs to someone else. Like your heartbeat is remembering something your mind doesn't yet understand. And when you close your eyes, there's this quiet sense of familiarity, like the universe is whispering, you're meant to meet. You're meant to understand each other. Just not yet. Maybe I know you because I've carried the idea of you through the loneliest nights, the ones where hope felt like a fading star. Maybe I know you because even without you physically here, your existence gives a sense of direction to the parts of me that were wandering without purpose. Maybe I know you because love doesn't always need a face to be felt. Sometimes it just needs a heart that's ready to feel it. I imagine the way your kindness would feel if it could touch my life, not in grand gestures, but in the small, gentle ways that matter. Maybe you would smile in a way that softens something inside me. Maybe your laughter would feel like a moment of peace I didn't know I needed. Maybe your presence would feel like coming home after hours of traveling without rest. These are not things I need to experience to believe in. These are truths the heart understands before the world demands evidence. There are people you meet who change the direction of your life, but there are also people you haven't met yet who are already shaping you. They inspire you to grow, to hope, to heal. They make you want to become someone worthy of the connection you feel forming, even if that connection is still waiting for its moment to be real. You don't need physical presence for emotional influence. Sometimes just the idea of someone is enough to make you hold your heart differently. Have you ever felt that quiet pull towards someone who isn't part of your world yet? That subtle internal shift where your heart makes room before it needs to? That's what I mean when I say I know you. I know the space you occupy inside me, even if we've never shared a moment. I know the comfort your imagined presence brings. I know the way my heart softens when I think of the possibility of you. Isn't it strange how some people live in us long before they arrive? How love can begin as a whisper in the dark before it ever becomes a voice in the light. Maybe I know you because I know the kind of love I'm capable of giving, and I believe deeply that somewhere out there, someone aligns with that love, someone whose heart will recognize mine the way I recognize theirs even from a distance. Maybe I know you because love has a way of connecting hearts before the world catches up. Maybe I know you because the universe has been quietly setting the stage for us, arranging the paths, the timing, the transformation we both needed before we could meet. You might be living your life completely unaware that someone out here feels connected to the truth of you. And that's the beautiful mystery of it. You don't have to know someone for your souls to be in conversation. You don't have to meet for your energies to resonate. Love doesn't always begin with a meeting. Sometimes it begins with recognition. Sometimes it begins with longing. Sometimes it begins with the quiet conviction that someone out there is meant for you in a way that the world hasn't revealed yet. I imagine the ways you might love, the kind of softness you offer to those you trust, the depth you hide behind your quiet moments, the dreams you hold gently because life has taught you to protect them. I imagine the warmth you give without realizing it, the courage you carry even when you're tired, the hope you keep even when the world tries to dim it. Maybe that's the part of you I know the most, the part that still believes in something more even after everything. That belief alone feels like something familiar, something I've known for a long time. There's a strange comfort in knowing someone without meeting them. You don't have expectations. You don't have disappointments. You don't have history weighing the connection down. All you have is possibility. And possibility is pure. Possibility is free. Possibility is honest. It lets you feel without fear. It lets you hope without apology. It lets you believe that love can exist even in the spaces between the not yet and the someday. Maybe that's what draws me to you, the purity of the connection, the simplicity of the feeling, the honesty of knowing someone without the complications that life eventually adds. It's not fragile. It's not temporary. It's not uncertain. It exists because it's meant to, because the heart recognized something before reality could give it shape. And that kind of knowing is rare. That kind of knowing is beautiful. That kind of knowing is worth trusting. I don't know the details of your life. I don't know what makes you laugh uncontrollably or what thoughts keep you awake at 2 a.m. I don't know what music heals you or what memories you revisit when you're searching for strength. But I know the feeling of you. I know the presence of you. I know the warmth of what you represent. I know the truth of what you awaken inside me. And sometimes that's more real than anything you can touch. There are connections that wait patiently for their moment. Connections that live quietly beneath the surface, preparing themselves for the day when the universe decides the time is right. I don't control when that moment comes. I don't know when our paths will finally cross, but I feel the certainty of it. I feel the inevitability of it. It's like standing on the edge of a story that hasn't been written yet, but already feels familiar. A story where two hearts find each other, not because they were searching, but because they were meant to meet all along. And so I carry you with me, not as an illusion, not as a dream, but as a truth that hasn't fully arrived yet. I carry the knowing of you the way the night carries the promise of dawn, quietly, patiently, with faith that what is meant will find its way. Because even if I never met you, I know you in the way the heart knows what belongs to it, in the way the soul recognizes something it's been waiting for, in the way love begins before it ever becomes real in the physical world. I speak these words not to claim certainty, but to honor the feeling, to acknowledge the quiet, honest truth that some connections begin before the meeting. Some loves start before the touch. Some souls find each other long before the world allows them to meet face to face. I never met you, but I know you, and that knowing lives inside me like a quiet kind of light guiding me toward the moment when our worlds finally. Love that exists before the meeting is one of those mysteries that life offers quietly, almost shyly, as if it knows most people won't believe in it at first. It's a kind of love that doesn't ask for permission to exist, doesn't wait for logic to approve it, doesn't require physical presence to feel real. It arrives gently, often when you're not paying attention, like a soft breeze brushing past you on a still day, making you pause, making you wonder why something so delicate can feel so certain. And the strange thing is, it doesn't feel like a fantasy or a wish. It feels like recognition, like your heart remembering, something your mind hasn't experienced yet. It's the sort of love that grows in the quiet spaces of your life. Before you've even realized it's begun, there's a moment, sometimes imperceptible, when your soul begins to move towards someone it hasn't met. You don't know their face, you don't know their voice, you don't know the shape of their smile or the rhythm of their laugh, but something inside you shifts, as if preparing itself, making room for someone whose story hasn't crossed yours yet. You don't know why it happens, you just know it does. And it's not dramatic or overwhelming, it's gentle, it's calm. It feels like when you walk into a room you've never been in, but somehow it still feels familiar. That's what love before the meeting feels like. Familiarity without history. Maybe it starts with a feeling of longing that doesn't belong to loneliness, a longing that doesn't come from emptiness but from anticipation, a longing that feels like standing on a threshold knowing something meaningful is just beyond the door even if you can't open it yet. It's like hearing a melody you've never heard before, but still knowing exactly where the next note will land. There's something deeply human about that kind of connection, something timeless, as if it has existed in every generation, in every heart that dared to feel deeply even before reality caught up. Love before the meeting is patient. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It doesn't try to control the timing of life. It simply exists in its own soft truth. It waits quietly, knowing that what is meant to arrive will come when it's ready, not when we try to force it. It waits the way the morning waits for the sun, not anxious, not doubtful, but certain. certain that light will come, certain that warmth will return, certain that what belongs together will eventually find its way into the same moment. There's beauty in that kind of love, a beauty that isn't loud or attention seeking, a beauty that doesn't rely on grand gestures or sweeping declarations. It's the beauty of something honest, something pure, something untouched by expectation. When love exists before the meeting, it is untainted by fear, untouched by disappointment, unshadowed by past wounds. It is love in its most innocent form, born not from experience but from possibility. And possibility can be one of the most powerful forms of truth we have. Sometimes this love begins without us even noticing. It begins in small thoughts, in quiet dreams, in unexplained comfort that rises inside us from time to time. Maybe you find yourself imagining the warmth of someone's presence even without knowing who they are. Maybe you feel a kind of peace while thinking about the future, not because you have a clear picture of it, but because a part of you senses that someone out there is moving toward you just as you are moving toward them. Maybe you feel hope not as a desire but as a certainty. Hope that feels like a hand gently guiding you forward even when the road is unclear. There's a gentle magic in believing that love can exist before the meeting. Some people might dismiss it as unrealistic, but reality has never been the sole measure of truth. The heart feels what it feels long before the world offers reasons. The heart recognizes connections long before the mind understands them. And sometimes, the heart begins loving in advance, as if it knows that when the right person arrives, the feeling will already have a place to belong. Love before the meeting is like an unseen thread. You may not see it, but you feel its pull. You feel the way it tugs you forward, encourages you to grow, inspires you to heal, invites you to become the version of yourself that will be ready for the moment your paths finally cross. This kind of love doesn't wait for the meeting to begin shaping you. It shapes you beforehand, preparing you gently, quietly, patiently. It teaches you how to open your heart even when there's no one standing in front of you yet. It reminds you that sometimes love begins with inner readiness, not outer circumstance. Maybe the reason this love feels so real is because it's built on potential rather than proof, because it asks nothing from you except the courage to believe. And belief is powerful. Belief transforms the way you look at the world. Belief keeps you soft when the world tries to make you hard. Belief keeps you hopeful when life tests your patience. Belief keeps you open in a world that often rewards closed hearts. Belief keeps you moving, even when the destination is still hidden from view. Love that exists before the meeting understands timing in a way our minds rarely do. It knows that you cannot rush growth. You cannot rush healing. You cannot rush connection. You cannot rush destiny. It knows that the version of you who will meet the person you're meant to meet is not always the version of you who exists today. And that's not a flaw.